Coming up on the W Show, the race for this year's flag is down to 4. The unbeaten Kangaroos to meet the talk of the town in Port Adelaide, while the rivalry between Brisbane and Adelaide is set for another storied chapter. Plus, we've got a new start date for the 2025 AFLW season. Don's co-captain Bonnie Toogood joins us on the couch. This is the W Show, thanks to Nat.
Oh, it certainly is. This premiership race, it is down to 4 as I welcome in my co-hostess with the mostess, Nat Edwards. Nat, unfortunately, in that quartet, your Hawks are not among them.
No, that is right. Very disappointing, Sarah, but they should still be proud of the season that they have. By the way, we were on the same couch last week and now we're separated.
I know, I thought we behaved quite well.
I know, we were very close and now we're too far apart.
Oh. And back also this week and back from Adelaide, although I think she is staying put this weekend. It's award-winning journalist Sarah Black. Hello, Sarah.
Hello. I think it's probably good we've got you two separate. You've been spending way too much time together.
Yeah, do we finish each other's
sentences? Correct.
And Bonnie Toogood, one of the OGs, our favourite Bombers co-captain, is also in the house. Hello to you, Bon.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back.
We've got 2 massive preliminary finals to unpack, but before we get there, let's get to the big news items this week. And it's official, we've got a new start date for the 2025 AFLW season. It is big news. It's going to begin the week of August 11 next year. Sarah, you had Emma Moore, the AFLW GM, on your show. Credit to the girls this week, along with Gemma Bastiani. I mean, you've got all the goss. Tell us a bit more.
Yes, so the 2025 season will begin the week of August 11, which is actually a Monday. I don't expect we have Monday night footy, and which is aligns with round 23 of the men's season. So we're going to have an overlap with 2 weeks of the home and away season for the men's, as well as the finals in there as well. We're going to have 12 games in 12 weeks of footy. Compressed fixture out the window, which we're loving, but midweek footy has not yet been ruled out.
I mean, no compressed fixture. Bonnie, is that music to your ears? Do you like what you're seeing and hearing when it comes to next year?
It's definitely music to my ears. No more compressed fixturing. That was really tough on all the players this year, as well as broadcasters and the like, just everyone in the football industry. And I like that we're 2 weeks into the men's competition as well. I think both competitions should leverage off each other. There's definitely space for that, and I think you can continue to grow the men's comp with different audiences that W brings in, and I think that's really important to be able to work together in that.
Would you actually like to see it pulled further back? I know it's starting around 23, but would you like to see the AFLW Grand Final played within a men's AFL season?
I go back and forth between this in my head, and I obviously don't know the logistics and all the smart stuff that happens, I suppose, upstairs. But I can see a world where we do move it even further into the men's season, because I think, again, being able to play alongside the industry is all in it together at the same time. I do see a world that could happen. You could have more space for double headers, again, to leverage off both competitions and that one club feel for not just only the players but also the fans. I do think for the W Grand Final, if that were to be a scenario, it should be in clean air and that it should be in a bye round of the men's season, something like that. But again, I'm not upstairs making those decisions, but I can see a world where that could happen and we could eventually move into that space.
I think it's a nice little baby step, only having 2 weeks overlap with the men's season for now. We're going to be seeing 18 games of elite level football each weekend. So that brings with itself all these logistical challenges around broadcast slots, ground availability. There'll be the VFL men's finals on at the same time as well. So Emma Moore, on credit to the girls, did mention there's a possibility of having double headers with the VFL finals, which I think will be a really interesting step as well.
Well, there'll already be broadcast cameras in place for AFL games and VFL games, so you can just piggyback off the back of that, and maybe some more games at Marvel Stadium. We'll see what is in store for 2025. Big news this week as well. The AFLW Grand Final entertainment has been announced. It's not the same heights as Katy Perry. That's in a different league for the AFL, unfortunately. But Lime Cordiale has been announced as the grand final entertainment. The 2 brothers from Sydney. It's sort of a rock pop vibe, a little bit like if you were having a Sunday session at Cottesloe Beach, maybe in Perth, Bonnie. You'd sit down and enjoy their songs. I had a little look on Spotify earlier at a couple of their songs. Quite like it. Do you know Lime Cordiale well?
I don't personally. I do like that vibe though, and I'm really interested to see how that works in line with the night grand final as well.
It is going to be fun, isn't it? Because it'll be under lights. And personally, I've always thought that the grand final entertainment, at least when it comes to the men's, it would be elevated, wouldn't it, if it was at night time? So I like it. I mean, I think lime cordial's a drink, but I'm looking forward to seeing what these two brothers can do.
Look, I think there are people, Sarah Black, who are a lot cooler than us, who actually know more about lime cordial. I think we're more in the Taylor Swift camp here.
Yeah, I think Triple J Darling.
Yes,
I think that's the best descriptor of lime cordial. But looking forward to seeing what they can produce.
And to some more news this week, and this is very important for North Melbourne because their skipper Emma Carney went through a fitness test on Wednesday. So this is vision here of her hitting her paces. We know she injured her hamstring in week 5 against the Tigers. Was a test for the preliminary final. Sarah Black, is she going to play or not?
Well, just looking at this vision, that she's hitting her stride much better than she was last week. Kate Garner there too, Jazzy's brother. He loves a bit of moment in the spotlight. But, you know, I went to training the week before, 2 weeks ago before North Melbourne played their qualifying final, and she was not hitting those speeds that we see there. So shout out to our colleague Dylan Bolsh, who headed down to Arden Street and captured some of that footage for us.
I mean, Bonnie, we know how important she is, but they've been flying without her. Does this, I guess, addition upset the apple cart in any way, or it's just business as usual?
I think for North Melbourne, it's business as usual. I think you'll take Emma Carney at whatever capacity, and she seems like she's flying in those sprints. If you're hitting those speeds, it looks very likely for the weekend, but I think it just adds more maturity to that group, maturity that they've already got in leaps and bounds. But in a final, a prelim final, you got to take that maturity, and an Emma Carney fit is exciting for them.
So let's take a look at the results from the weekend's 2 big semi-finals. 2 differing results. We can see the Crows there making pretty light work of Fremantle, but then a little bit later. This was one of the best games of AFLW period.
Debatable.
Oh, well, sorry for Hawks fans, perhaps not so much, but Port Adelaide mounting a stunning comeback to win by just 1 point, and it sets up 2 mouthwatering preliminary finals. They're both on Saturday. The first at Icon Park, it's the Roos coming up against that hot team in the Power, and then it's a tale as old as time, isn't it? The Brisbane Lions and Adelaide Crows, they go head to head yet again, but let's begin with that first preliminary final between the Roos and Power. Just before we get into the minutiae of this match, we do want to pay some love towards Port Adelaide and what they could do. Look away now, Nat, in that last quarter against Hawthorn, because they pegged back a 22-point deficit to record and clinch a 1-point victory. Sarah, this was the best advertisement for AFLW I can remember. They just threw everyone forward, and some young stars along with Gemma Houghton, they just stood up.
There's something to be said for rolling the dice. You know, when you've got nothing to lose in a semi-final, you know, just go for your life, really.
Absolutely.
And their footy has lent itself to finals. We've seen that the past 2 weeks. It's that surge, long kicking, you know, throwing caution to the wind. So the confidence that they took out of their win over Richmond, I think, was on show in this game against Hawthorn. And you'd have to be coming into this prelim final going, gosh, we're on a roll here, what can we do?
And we can see there, Bonnie, it is the biggest ever 3/4 time deficit to overcome, 22 points. I mean, looking at that at 3/4 time at the weekend, did you give Port any hope in hell of retrieving that deficit?
To be honest, no, I didn't, and I was very impressed watching that last quarter back with the changes that they made and just the intensity that lifted, the pressure around the football. But as you said, Sarah, their ability to surge it forward, but their contest players were so crucial. And times where Hawthorn needed to just bring the ball to ground, Gemma Houghton stands up and takes a mark and kicks a goal. So in those crucial moments in the last quarter, they were just able to see it through, which is so important in finals footy.
Sometimes finals footy, it's all about the agony and the ecstasy. That was summed up by the coaches.
Proud of the group, proud of the effort, but also to let the feelings sink in. Like, this needs to drive the group next year, because when things get tough, you need to find that extra gear and you need that motivation, and that's the lesson we need to learn.
I just can't believe it. I'm just so proud of our group. I'm so proud of our coaching group, our players, and yeah, just watching our people now just enjoy the hard work. You know, we've got some really dedicated fans. We've got our families just give up everything for their people to play our game, and yeah, we've been through so many tough times in our first 2 years, and just to see the players execute key moments which have lost us games in the first 2 years of our existence, but I think sometimes you got to go through the hard stuff to get to the good stuff, and this is definitely one of those good moments where you just sport's pretty amazing, isn't it?
I tell you what, she's busy, our Nat Edwards, but Lauren Arnell overcome with emotion there, mentioning all the hard times. Of course, she became a mother earlier this year, but I'm interested, Nat, on your take from a Hawthorn perspective. Daniel Webster not really mincing his words there. He thinks it's a game they should have won, and it will be a fire in the belly, won't it, for next year?
It certainly will. I mean, when you kick 6 goals, 13, and when you look at the week before and the missed opportunities that I had against Brisbane, you could say that they should have won both of those games. So really, when you look at it, this one is going to burn for a very long time, and I think that's what his message was to the players, essentially. Let it burn. Pre-season starts in May, and we'll see. This could be the making of a Hawthorn side, but just back on Lauren Arnell, I remember being at that very first ever AFLW game at Icon Park. She led the Blues out that day, just to come full circle and come back to what she's achieved in this game. She's such a trailblazer in not just a playing sense, but what she's been able to achieve as a coach as well has just been quite remarkable. So it's a beautiful story.
Let's stick with Port Adelaide and get to our NAB star power, because we can't look past these teen queens when it comes to Lauren Arnell's side. Sarah, they ran rampant. You can see Molly Brooksby, Sinead Goody, Matilda Schultz. I think we're all the biggest fans of her. And Piper Window having a quietly good season, I think, as well. I mean, it's incredible to think these young players, Sarah, are leading the way.
They really are, and we still haven't seen Lauren Young yet, who's possibly the most talented one of the lot. So Brooksby, Scholes and Window all came out of the draft just gone, or they were expansion signings, some of them. And Scholes got an extra season in there as well, so as an underage signing. So, you know, I think it's really exciting to see what this future, this competition is going to be. These girls were 12 years old in 2017. You mentioned Lauren Arnell leading out Carlton then. They were still in primary school. So, you know, we've only got good news to come in the future.
We saw in the vision there, Nat, you had your ponytail up. Well, you need it again because the mercury, it's rising. It's going to be really hot at Icon Park on Saturday afternoon.
It's going to be a sweaty mess on Saturday. It's going to be 34 degrees. It was 32 at about 7 o'clock when the game started. So, Bonnie, my question to you is Port Adelaide, 2 trips down to Melbourne within, a week or so, playing in that 32-degree heat and then having to back it up against a side who had a week off. Is the heat going to play any part in fatigue for Port Adelaide, do you think?
Look, there's a possibility it could. However, the strength and conditioning staff, I know from my team, but they do a power of work and research into how to combat the heat and the best hydration tactics and best cooling tactics as well pre-game. So I'm sure they are going to have all of that in place for the game. So they won't use it as an excuse. Yes, the Kangaroos are also coming off a week, but they're also playing in that heat as well. Yep. And we don't know how that bye also affects fatigue as well. We talk about it in the men's competition, that pre-finals bye, how that can affect the players, and if there's an extra element of fatigue or being a little bit slower. So I think you can argue the case for both teams with that, but the S&C staff for both teams will have it all sorted with what they need to get right before the game and combat the heat.
Now, Bonnie, we'll get you up for the deep dive. Take it slowly with that moon boot on. And while you are hobbling up over there, Sarah, the last time these two sides met, it really was one-sided, wasn't it? Do you expect there to be less of a difference this time around? I mean, Port are coming off 8 wins in a row.
Wildly different weather conditions the last time these two sides played also. It was really heavy storms, so lucky not to get sent off with lightning. North jumped out to a really big lead in this one. I think Port won't be quite as stunned again, that they'll know what to expect. I'm still edging towards North Melbourne, but not quite to the disparity that we saw in week 4 of the season.
All right, let's get to the deep dive because Bonnie has made her way over there. She took a little bit longer than normal, but that's okay. She's with our very own Gemma Bastiani.
We all know that North Melbourne's midfield is an absolute powerhouse. They've got star names, Ash Riddell, Jasmine Garner in there, but it's their ability to adapt depending on the oppo, Bonnie, that we really love. Got 2 examples here. First one is against Adelaide in the qualifying final. Just 2 weeks ago, Ash Riddell sitting on its own at stoppage, but it leaves Ebony Marinoff free as well.
Which is the game that they're willing to play, risk versus reward. Eb Marinoff, an amazing player in her own right, but they're willing to set up Ash Riddell free at the back of the stoppage, and that does give up potentially an oppo midfielder free, but they want them to feed out of the back of the stoppage to their wingers to then progress the ball forward.
And you'll notice they always want to set up that extra at the back of the stoppage because they want to feed out the back where there's space and use it to propel forward. Doesn't always work perfectly. Sometimes they give up the clearance, but it's the way that they want to play their footy.
Yes, and that's how they play, but they have great stoppage balance at all times, and that's really key to understand who's got who, but then which space that they're protecting. And there's always balance, even in a loose ball situation like this. Yes, Crows get the clearance, but they've got great stoppage balance.
Mia King, Ruby Tripodi, and even Alice O'Loughlin coming up at the ball. Now, when the oppo doesn't let them do that, Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago, for example, don't let them do that. Don't let Ashredale find that space. This is what happens. They have a trigger that they can pull. Claudia Whitford is going straight to Ashredale. What do we see play out here, Bonnie?
What we see play out is it's very tight one-on-one situation, but we've got a repeat stoppage straight away. And Ash is notified that she's got a player right on her, so the winger comes in and creates the +1 out the back of the stoppage, and this is how they get that moving backwards out of the stoppage to then propel forward.
So you'll notice that Taylor Gatt is generally the handball receive option. And we've got another repeat stoppage. They set up exactly the same way. Riddell comes to the side of the stoppage, Gatt sits at the back, and Gatt is the one they want to get the ball in the hands of if they can. The next one is an even better example of this because Ashredale's the one that wins the footy in the contested situation, and Gatt is the handball receive option. So we'll see that roll through. And Gatt, it's not clean, it doesn't have to be super clean, but it's the system that they want to play against a contested side. Port Adelaide's a contested side, aren't they?
They are a contested side, and I wouldn't put it past them to do something similar to Gold Coast Suns because last time they played, Ashredale got 30 disposals, and I don't think they'd want that to happen again.
So we'll see how it plays out if they use Taylor Gatt in the same way.
It's certainly a star-studded midfield, Sarah, and part of the issue as well for Port Adelaide, if that Kangaroos midfield gets on top, there is talent forward of the ball. And there's a great line in a famous Australian movie, The Castle, where it's all about the vibe, and you've got a bit of a vibe when it comes to North's Tools.
I love talking about the vibe. I'm convinced that the intangible is actually tangible. Yeah, when it comes to North Melbourne's Tools, obviously Emma King, Kate Sheila and Talia Randall, you can't keep all three of them down at the same time. If you do manage to do that, then there's the small forwards. We heard Gemma mention Alice O'Loughlin. She's in excellent form. Bella Eddy was outstanding in their qualifying final against Adelaide. So if the talls don't get you, then the smalls will. And looking at Port Adelaide's talls, they're young. Some of them are young. They've got a fair bit, a big task ahead of them. Amelie Borg, Tegan Gerwick and Ange Foley, who's got plenty of experience under her belt, but probably not the height to go with those three. So that's my watch.
Bon, when you're looking at the talls and smalls of that Kangaroos forward line, who do you put the most time into? Because as Sarah said, one of them's going to get you, aren't they?
They've got so much depth in that forward line, and particularly how they exit out of stoppage with their midfielders. Their midfielders tend to have a lot of time and space. So the forwards can identify the free space, they can get on the good leads with great timing because of how they exit stoppage. When it comes to the individuals down there, I'm not sure which one you put the most time into because you let one off the leash, then you've got to put time into them, and then someone else will get off the leash. So I'm interested to see what Port tactics are going to be on the weekend.
Well, let's move on to the second preliminary final now, and it's the two OGs of the AFLW going head-to-head for the 13th time, if you don't mind, Brisbane and, of course, Adelaide. Now, before we unpack all of this, let's just take a listen to Adelaide Crows coach Matthew Clark after their win over Freo last week.
Well, we've been around the mark, so the good news is we don't have to play a hell of a lot better, I don't believe, but clearly, yeah, they've got an outstanding record. They've got some threats right across the ground. I reckon it'll be a pretty good game, and hopefully we can learn some of the lessons of previous encounters, and including earlier in the season, we just didn't quite close out the last sort of 3 or 4 minutes of that game as well as we would have liked.
So, Bonnie, as Matt Clark was alluding to, they didn't do much wrong against the Brisbane Lions back in week 5. That was the day after the AFL Men's Grand Final. They had control for a large portion of that game, but it came down to the last 100 seconds where Taylor Smith bobbed up and kicked a very, very crucial goal, which put the Lions back in front. From your perspective, what do you think Adelaide need to do a little bit better this time?
Can I just say, while listening to him speak, all I could think about is how many times they've done an Oppo review with Adelaide.
Yeah.
Like, with the competition, you don't get to play everyone once. So there's some teams you haven't even done an opposition review. I'm like, what are they going to pick up this time round? But I think it's just keeping their cool in those last dying seconds of the game and making sure they're adhering to the right structures and not allowing Brisbane to get on top and get that surge football going, because that will be really hard to stop for them. But I think for the Crows, what they really need to tighten up on is their just disposal efficiency at the moment, making sure they're hitting their handball and hitting their kicks, because even in the Geelong game at the end of the season, they seem to have drop that at times as well. So I think that's their area to really clean up, which is hard to do when it's finals footy and the pressure's high.
I mean, Sarah Black, we saw there some clutch moments from the Lions and they really deliver. Is that their edge over Adelaide? If you really had to separate these two sides who have been very good for such a long time, is it their composure and their ability to win those clutch moments in games that puts them ahead?
All I'm doing is bringing vibes to
Yeah, that's
this
okay.
episode.
We love the vibe.
But there's a reason I don't tip against Brisbane in a final, and it's because they have that little bit of extra mongrel. That when the game is on the line, they go lower, they go harder, and they don't panic either. They have this innate belief that they will be on top when the final siren goes. And when it comes to finals, sometimes that's all you need to have that little bit of extra edge to cause a little bit of panic. And then you end up, we've been talking about Adelaide's, skill and disposal efficiency woes, that if Brisbane can get under their skin a little bit, maybe that's all they need to get over the line.
So this will be their 5th final. They've played 4 other times in finals. The only one that Adelaide has managed to clinch is that premiership right there that you see. Obviously, the Brisbane Lions are an amazing team as well. As we take a look to, that's Dakota Davidson from last year. That was an incredible day against North Melbourne, and I think we all think that's probably the matchup that's coming again on grand final day. But as we take a look at the two coaches here, so evenly matched, Bonnie, and both stalwarts of this competition. Great coaches in their own right, but you can barely split them.
You can't split them, but I think it shows how important consistency is in your coaching staff as well. I think that's what this really highlights. But from all reports, from chatting with some of the players from both teams, just such strong leaders and very great mentors as well. So they've done wonderful to build their sides. But no, you can't split them. You can't really split these two teams. So the weekend's going to be very exciting.
Well, one thing is for sure, Adelaide and North Melbourne, if we go back a couple of weeks to that qualifying final, they certainly had their opportunities, in particular in that second term. I think, Sarah Ollie, you were on the boundary
it was a
for
hard
this
watch.
game, and it was a hard watch, wasn't it? So this is something that Adelaide really need to clean up, is their ability to take those opportunities.
Yeah, and mentioning the disposal and being clean.
Yeah.
And as we said, that's really hard to do in finals footy. So if Lions can implement that kind of pressure from the get-go, it's going to be a really hard day for Adelaide. But I think they need to clean that up, and that's something you can get to work on during the week, and it's something that you can fix quite quickly, but making sure you're having that composure, being clean with the footy and able to just give the ball to a teammate.
I want to touch on Adelaide star Chelsea Randall now. And Sarah, she has been doing a phenomenal job during the final season. She's had a stellar season already. It's like she's trying to put this team on her shoulders, but she's going to need some help, doesn't she?
I feel like Matthew Clark would love to have 3 Chelsea Randalls in his side. I mean, who wouldn't? Because she can play forward, go back, and she can start in the middle, which would be intimidating for some young Port. Oh, not against Port, aren't they? Some young mids, but. God, she leaves nothing out there, does she, Chelsea Randall? And this has been an area of concern, I would say, is in front of goal. But she just gives her all week in, week out. And I feel like if they are to get on top against the Lions, and it's been the Lions recently that have been on top, Chelsea Randall is going to be in the thick of it. Bonnie, do you just absolutely love watching her? I feel like I am the #1 ticket holder for the Chelsea Randall fan club. But are you in it too?
I am 1000% in that club. You talk about the mongrel, and Chelsea has it in spades. It's incredible to see what she's done over these last few weeks with just putting the team on her back. She's a leader. She has been for the club and passed on that captaincy this year, but that doesn't just disappear. Yeah. She's going to get the group on her back and be like, come on, let's do this. I'll show you with how I do it, what you need to do in order to take on the pressure. So she's incredible, how hard she goes at the football, her smarts, her game sense, which is crucial again in finals footy, is going to be really important this week.
Now we've got you in the studio, so shall we put Bonnie not so much in the hot seat, but let's reflect on your season, Bon. I mean, you've got the moon boot on. It started off in round 1 with the knee injury. It just did not go your way at all this year. How do you reflect on the campaign?
It wasn't what I was planning, that's for sure. I was hoping to play all the games. The knee injury was, it happened so quickly, and I was really disappointed, but there was hope of getting back. So that was my focus throughout the season, was like, I could get back in 5 weeks, so let's get back in 5 weeks, and I want to be there for the team. And I did, and then finally got to play some football, and then the ankle kind of decided to say, see you later. And then that meant ruled out for our first week of finals. So it's been a roller coaster of a year, and I don't really know how to sum it up yet, to be honest.
So syndesmosis injury, you're booked in for surgery, is that right? What are they doing exactly?
Yes, so I'm booked in this Saturday, you wouldn't believe.
Oh, hello.
And they need to just go in there and tighten it up a little bit. The bones have spread a little bit too far, so just need to bring them together to give the ankle a little bit more stability. It just went underneath me. My momentum was going one way, my foot turned the wrong way, and that's not what's supposed to happen. But once it's all tightened up, we'll be ready to go for revenge season next year.
Have you had surgery before?
I've never had surgery before, so I'm not going to lie to you, I'm a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
You'll be
But everyone's
It's
saying
the best sleep you will ever have in your life.
this is what has been repeated multiple
I
times.
dreamt that I played alongside Buddy Franklin in my last surgery, and I kicked 13 goals.
That
so,
was definitely a dream,
that would be
Natalie.
Well, before I got AFLW, I dreamed that I would play alongside Chelsea Randall, but now it's just against her.
And what about the off season? Got a trip? You're getting away, getting out?
So once I'm able, well, no, I already booked it in. I lied to you. I'm so sorry. But no, I will be going away. I've got a trip booked over Boxing Day from Boxing Day through to middle of Jan, just to switch off. But my ankle should be okay by then.
Beautiful.
So look out Tokyo, because I will be there.
Enjoy. And that is it for the W Show. I'm supposed to wrap
You
up
are.
this
I
hosting.
said
I looked
hello.
at Sarah Ollie and
Your
I was like, hang on a
goodbye.
second, I've got to say goodbye. It's so lovely to have you, and best of luck for your surgery on Saturday. We wish you all the best, and we cannot wait to see you back out there on the footy field.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching the W Show. Of course, we will be back next week with a massive grand final show. In the meantime, enjoy the prelim finals.
Join me, Sarah Hosking, and me, Sarah Rowe, as we take a look at life on and off the footy field. Tagged every Tuesday on afl.com.au/AFLW or wherever you get your podcasts.